I ran a full marathon with a 100% blockage, and it wasn't on purpose. Just a few years earlier, I was told by a cardiologist that I had a perfect cardiac score. I thought I was good to go. I was more than fortunate to not have a heart attack while running. But I did have multiple stent placements later, followed by a double bypass and a grueling recovery. I was 47 years old, very active my whole life, and as far as I was concerned, this was not supposed to happen to me. But it did. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I got there, what my symptoms were, and more importantly, the 5 steps I took to prepare and overcome pre-surgery fear and anxiety. Thank you for stopping by Love Your Heart, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell. Make sure you also click the link below for Shayna's free recipes and my top 5 ways to prepare if you have an upcoming bypass surgery or major medical event. When the heart surgeon comes out of surgery with his little booties speckled with blood, that little blue mask around his neck, and he touches you about right here to show you where your incision is going to start and end, that can be intimidating. That was the day after my cardiologist told me that although I already had 3 stents to clear blockage in my arteries, I was going to need to have a bypass as soon as possible. After I met with the surgeon, I saw the anesthesiologist in a dimly lit room. I guess he thought a dark room was going to make me feel a little more calm about him putting me to sleep with the chance of not waking up. I was thinking to myself, didn't I just run 7 miles last Saturday? I'm in pretty good shape. How did this happen? I thought the stenting procedure I had just 2 years earlier made me good to go. I just spent the last 2 years continuing to run, cycle, and eating a mostly plant-based diet. I thought that would do it. According to my cardiologist, I could eat salad for the rest of my life and run until the cows came home, but I was still going to have heart disease because it was hereditary. Now, not only was I anxious and sad, but I was kind of angry. But let me back up first, though, to a question I get asked by a lot of people. People always want to know, what were your symptoms? When you're active and you look like you're in relatively decent shape, your friends always ask you about your symptoms. I had the same symptoms that I had 2 years earlier before having 3 stents put in for multiple blockages. I had burning in my chest, a pain in my left arm, mostly while I was running or cycling. Unfortunately, I ignored the symptoms both times because I didn't want to tell my wife and I didn't want to believe it. Some aren't as fortunate to have the symptoms or to be doing something that creates those symptoms. Don't ever ignore those symptoms, and certainly don't allow your pride to cause you to ignore them. Thankfully, 2 years after my first symptoms and my stent placement, I was on my way to meet one of Nashville's best heart surgeons. After meeting with the surgeon and anesthesiologist, I had to go to several different windows in the surgery center, take care of insurance paperwork. Shayna was finishing up for me and I made my way to the restroom. As I stepped in, the emotion got the best of me. I thought I was going to explode into tears. But an elderly man was just closing the door to a stall. So I held back, took a deep breath, and asked God to help me. I knew I couldn't do this on my own. I composed myself, went back out to the counter where Shayna was. But still, the anxiety and sadness of who I thought I was still completely overwhelming. What I want to say is this, it wasn't really a sadness for me and the thought of losing the innocence of my health as much as it was for my family. I didn't want my son, who was working and living in Los Angeles, to be afraid of losing his dad. I didn't want my wife to have to entertain the inevitable thoughts and wonder how she was going to live without me. The reality is that's just where we all go in times like these, but I just didn't want that for them. My son was only 10 days away from celebrating his birthday, and I didn't want him to have to remember his birthday as the time when he lost his father every year for the rest of his life. Shayna's grandparents had just moved into assisted living and were declining in health. They were in the last 5 months of both of their lives. So the timing was just really inconvenient. This was just too much for all of us. I had 5 long days to think about what was going to happen to me, my body, the way I thought about myself, the way I lived, the way my family thought about me. Would they perceive me as weak, or would they see me as someone who was strong, a survivor, a fighter? So I took 5 really important steps that had a huge impact on the day of my surgery. It had an impact on my stress, blood pressure, my emotions. And by the way, if you're watching this right now and you've had a similar experience, I want you to comment below and tell me and others what you did to prepare for your major surgery. Remember, every story is different. Every personality is different. Every medical condition is different. No one's going to judge you. We just want to hear how you personally prepared for your life event. So, here are the 5 steps I took to prepare for my surgery. Number 1, I prayed. I prayed with my family, dear friends, and a pastor. I found a great deal of confidence knowing that I had others in my life on my side hoping and praying for the best. Something about that brought me a great deal of peace. Number 2, I relied on God's providence. I knew that if this had to happen to me, God would use it to make me a better human being for the good of others. Number 3, I was grateful. I realized how fortunate I was that I was able to drive, well, my wife drove me, to the surgery in my own vehicle instead of an ambulance. I could have had a heart attack. I was able to prepare my living will, spend time with my family, friends, just relax for a few days before a grueling recovery process. Number 4, I accepted it. People go through heart bypass surgery every day. Most are very successful. I had even asked the surgeon when we met with him if there was another way for me, another option. Obviously, he said there wasn't. It had to happen, and fighting it would only make my anxiety greater. So I accepted it. Finally, number 5, I enjoyed my friends and family as much as I could for the next 5 days before surgery. Friends came from out of state to stay at the house. We went to dinner. I was able to do some songwriting and recording with friends for a couple of days. And so it made life, it de-stressed my life. Those are the 5 ways that I prepared for my bypass surgery. I hope that as you or a family member or someone you know faces down an intimidating surgery or medical event, that you'll find peace, faith, a reason to be grateful in spite of the struggle you're facing. I also hope you'll find a way to accept the inevitable, but also accept the love and support of friends and family as they come and visit, as they hopefully have that time to hang out with you before you go into a major surgery. I'll be posting a series of videos here on our Love Your Heart channel sharing my experience from the day of surgery, post-surgery, and taking the recovery process home. So be sure to subscribe, like, and ring the bell for notifications. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments and seeing you in our next video.